All right, well, I've been watching boxing for a long time, man, for over 30 years. And from as far back as I remember, boxing's always had its rivalries. It's had its ethnic rivalries. You had the Puerto Rican Mexican rivalry. And, even with Roger Mayweather, he was called the Mexican assassin because before he got beat by Julio Cesar Chavez, he beat a lot of Mexican fighters. Manny Pacquiao, the same thing, beat a lot of Mexican fighters before he got knocked out by Juan Manuel Marquez. So, even on YouTube, um, we all have our factions in the sport of boxing. You have people who like certain fighters, but since that Manny Pacquiao Floyd Mayweather uh, whole thing started back in 2009, 2010 ish, this has gotten really out of control. You have people getting in these race wars, not only on YouTube but on Twitter about the sport of boxing. And now, you hear a lot of uploaders complain that there's an American bias in the sport of boxing and how the Eastern European fighters are not getting their due and they're getting treated unfairly. And case in point, when you watch that Andre Ward Sergey Kovalev fight, at the end of the fight, when the decision was announced, even HBO's Jim Lampley said, and the American fighter got a hometown decision. So he basically stirred the pot and kind of heated things up and flared things up even more with that statement. And then people wonder why, Andre Ward reacts the way he reacts to people in the media because, you hear people say, oh, it's not personal, it's just criticism of his style. But the way that criticism is being brought out there to him, the way it's being interpreted to him, the way it's being relayed to him by the media, it comes off as really personal. You hear Dan Raphael say things, about Andre Ward and refusing to even cover his fight because he did not like the opponent and constantly criticizes the style. That's not being objective. That's not being an unbiased member of the media. But let's get back to this claims of American bias because not American. Daniel Jacobs is. Gennady Golovkin is not from New York. Obviously, Daniel Jacobs is. And I thought Daniel Jacobs won the fight as many others did. It was a close enough fight where you could have said it could have gone either way. Gennady Golovkin got the decision. So the American fighter in his backyard did not get the benefit of the doubt in a close fight against an Eastern European fighter. So again, that just debunks the claims of American bias. And then you hear people say that American fighters get preferential treatment by the sanctioning bodies, by the media, by the networks. But think about it. Really think about it. Look at HBO 5 to 7 years. Who's always been the face of HBO boxing? It's since Floyd Mayweather left, and even when Floyd Mayweather was there, he was the highest paid athlete on the network. But if you listen to the commentary, he was constantly criticized. And even when he was interviewed after fights, you saw what Larry Merchant did to him. And, as soon as he left and went to Showtime, Manny Pacquiao became the face of boxing for HBO. That was the guy that they pushed. That was their marquee fighter. That was the bread and butter fighter for them. And now that Manny Pacquiao's somewhat lost his luster, now HBO is pushing fighters like Gennady Golovkin, Sergey Kovalev, and Vasily Lomachenko. And Terence Crawford gets a little bit of a push here and there, but nowhere near the amount of push as these other Eastern European fighters get. So to sit there and say that there's a bias against Eastern European fighters or foreign fighters is totally ridiculous. And look at Canelo Alvarez. He's, the the face of pay-per-view right now. He's the next star in boxing right now. He's the money guy. He's not American. So to sit there and say that American fighters get treated better, they get preferential treatment in the rankings, because if you look back, I mean, just let's look back at Canelo Alvarez when he won his first world title. Okay, he was able to fight a welterweight in Matthew Hatton at a catch weight of 150 pounds for a 154-pound title. Canelo Alvarez is not an American fighter. So it's not really about, the ethnicity of the fighter. It's basically, a lot of times it depends on the fighter's marketability, the way he carries himself, the way he fights, his style. So I don't necessarily think it's a knock on, where the fighter comes from or not. It just looks to me like, with the exception of Showtime, you're seeing a lot of Eastern European fighters being showcased, except on PBC and Showtime, where, that's where you see most of the American fighters get their push. But HBO and, even Top Rank, they're not pushing the American fighter as much as they're pushing the Eastern European fighter or the Latino fighter. So I just disagree with all these claims about, a versus Russia thing that seems to be going on now, especially with this Ward Kovalev thing. Because if anything, HBO doesn't seem to really like Andre Ward's style as much as they like Kovalev's style. And I really believe, this is just my personal opinion, that they would have rather saw Sergey Kovalev win instead of Andre Ward, because they like his style better. He's considered the more exciting fighter. He's the knockout guy, whereas Andre Ward's more of the technical guy. So I know that's just my thoughts on this whole thing. I'm sure a lot of people have their own opinions on this, and there's always going to be a heated debate on this, but there's nothing wrong with, having a fighter that you like, or representing a fighter who's from your background. There's nothing wrong with that. But it's been getting really out of hand here for last 2 years or so, last 2 or 3 years. It's been getting really bad. And I just think you have to really look at it for what it is, and to sit there and just say things that I just don't see, and many other people don't see it. It's just false propaganda that's being pushed out here by certain channels. And you see that's the basis of all their content, is to just basically smash American fighters, smash African-American fighters, making this out to be a race thing where, it really shouldn't be that way, because there's a lot of good fighters out there from, all the backgrounds, all different ethnic groups, and that's how boxing's always been. It's not really shouldn't be about where the fighter comes from. Obviously, it should be about how good he is, and that goes without saying. So that's all I got to say about that, guys. Until next time, Habeeb is out. Talk to y'all soon. Peace.